Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I have another review for you. So today I am going to be discussing The Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. So to begin, I want to give some facts about the book. It is book number 1 in her Vampire Chronicles. It is a book that was published back in 1976, making it around 44 years old. An interesting thing about this book is that there are absolutely 0 chapters. Whenever I noticed that, I was kind of hesitant. I didn't think that I would enjoy it, but after reading it, it didn't bother me at all. I did have to kind of pick and choose where I chose to stop reading each day, but it does have different parts. There are 4 parts in the book to kind of divide up the storyline a little bit better. There are 340 pages in this book. It took me 7 days to read, and I think it took me 7 days because I really enjoyed the story and the text. The writing was very good. It being so old, it still left me feeling engaged and entertained, and I just ultimately think that the story is very timeless. She's created something that people can enjoy for years and years to come. This is about a boy who is interviewing a vampire named Louise, and that kind of sets up the premise of the book. It takes place in modern day. They're in this room. The boy has his tape recorder and he's just talking to this vampire and listening to him tell his story of his life from beginning to present. And we soon discover that he became a vampire from another vampire, and with the intention of him sort of becoming a slave of sorts to this other vampire. So he becomes a companion to the vampire who made him, and this vampire's name is Lestat. And Lestat is very much evil, and you know, Louise has trouble with that. He has trouble with turning his humanity off, and he's just a vampire with such an elevated consciousness. He's so aware of the evil in him and the evil in his master, Lestat, that he has trouble just fully embracing vampirism. So him and Lestat are just living, you know, their lives together, and he really starts to build this resentment and hatred for Lestat when he first became a vampire, he showed admiration for him, and you know, it was just a wonderful thing going from a human to a vampire and experiencing all of these, you know, heightened senses and experiences that normal human beings cannot even fathom. So basically, years go by, he starts to resent him, really just full of self-loathfulness and hatred for himself, really. And Lestat senses this, and he's afraid that he's going to lose his partner. And so through the acts of both vampires and kind of not knowing the scheme that Lestat is up to, they in turn turn another vampire and turn another human into a vampire, and it just so happens to be a young girl, and her name is Claudia. And Lestat was very calculated in his plan to kind of keep Louise around through the means of creating this vampire child. So the story really gets interesting at this point. You know, I just found it really fascinating to see how this child turns into a vampire and just copes with her new strength and her new hunger, you know, for blood. And so this book is just a journey of their lives together and how they feel towards another. They go from admiring one another and, you know, really looking up to the person who made them a vampire, and then it in turn with time turning it into a dislike and hatred for one another. And it just follows that span of time where they are living together and just experiencing this life together. An interesting theme throughout this book is love. So love is different for vampires as it is in the human meaning. Love for vampires is not intimate in the physical form. It's not sexual. It is more of a connection and a bond that you share with someone else. It's more about elevating each other's minds and just going through this life together. So really the concept of love is, it's not a physical nature, but of a spiritual and an emotional and intellectual nature. And it's very, very interesting the way that their relationships are formed and how they continue. It's kind of sweet and endearing, but in a way it's strange because we don't view love that way. So it was an interesting and unique way of displaying love. So I really enjoyed the theme of love in vampirism. So there's also another theme that would be good versus evil. It's one of my favorite themes to ever read, and I really enjoyed this one because of the fact that Louise, the star of the book, the one who is explaining his story to this boy in this interview, he is really, like, his entire life is just a struggle, an inner struggle and a battle with having to cope with the fact that he's just this evil and monstrous thing, and really just living life as a vampire and skirting around the edges of evil so that he's committing the least amount of monstrous and heinous acts. Because you have to feed in order to live as a vampire. The hunger just takes over you. And just the fact that he constantly chooses to grapple with his morality and the sense of good and evil and where he comes from and where he's condemned to be and who his master is, it just really shows that he can hold on to a part of his humanity. And he's a very strong and very highly conscious individual, I should say. I mean, he is a vampire, but he still has such a strong belief in doing the right thing, even though he does the wrong thing daily. So as far as my recommendation goes, I completely recommend this book. I have zero complaints whatsoever. Like I said before, I was kind of hesitant whenever I was, storming through the pages and saw that there were no chapter breaks, but honestly, the story was so captivating and it just kept me turning page after page. I didn't really care. It didn't bother me at all. Because, I mean, usually when I'm reading a book, I count how many pages are left of the chapter, and then that's kind of like my goal for a certain allotted time. Here, I basically just enjoyed reading and didn't give myself a certain page number. I just stopped when I felt like it was a good place to stop. So that was different for me, and I really enjoyed that part about the reading. Yeah, I really think that Anne Rice has created a timeless story here, a story that I can definitely reread at any point. So I definitely recommend this story to anyone. I truly feel like Anne has created a timeless piece of work, and it was entertaining, engaging, fun to read, captivating, moving, and it got me to think in different ways about concepts, as I mentioned before, like love. And I really enjoyed it, and I was really excited to talk about it. And it's 5 stars, obviously, because I have nothing negative to say about this book. So thank you, Anne Rice, for creating this timeless piece of work. And I hope you guys, if you do decide to read this book, that you will come back and you will discuss that with me in the comments. Or if you have read it, please comment and share your thoughts and opinions on how you felt when you read this book. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.